Some Saints roster news coming and going. The going is the disappointing news for defensive tackle Jalen Dalton. Jalen Dalton has suffered a season-ending injury. He apparently had a serious triceps injury, first reported by Nick Underhill. He's expected to miss the entire 2020 season. So Dalton was obviously not going to be a starter. His best chance of making the squad was going to be backing up Mario Edwards. But he was kind of in the mix there with Shai Tuttle, Marcus Hunt, Malcolm Roach, some of the guys vying for those defensive line spots. 6'6", 300-pounder. He was one of 4 players to return from last year's practice squad. So if you remember how this went down, he first signed with New Orleans in mid-December and was with the Saints at the end of the year and was back this year in camp. Now, the loss of Dalton dropped the roster down to 78 spots. Of course, they released Nigel Bradham, and then Dalton's injury brought them down from 80, and then Bradham, and then now Dalton, 78. Then the Saints have added another player in the secondary. It's cornerback Keemon Hall. The Saints had a tryout of several cornerbacks this week and over the past week, and so they added veteran special teamer Johnson Batamosi, who had been injured, right? Or they lost Batamosi to injury, put him on IR. This after Tino Ellis, who was the undrafted rookie free agent out of Maryland, also went to IR. So you lost 2 cornerbacks. They brought in veterans to see who might fill those spots, and they ended up signing second-year pro Keemon Hall. He was out of North Texas, undrafted in 2019, spent last year on the Vikings practice squad, and now has signed with the New Orleans Saints, so he'll be in camp with the Saints. It almost feels like it's in passing because the Saints already have so much depth at corner. I mean, your first 2, you have arguably at their peak, the best cornerback tandem in the NFL with Marshawn Lattimore and Janoris Jenkins. Then you have guys vying for that nickel role with Patrick Robinson and P.J. Williams to see how it all works out. You have Justin Hardy, Keith Washington, and now Keemon Hall. And then, of course, you have C.J. Gardner-Johnson, or, I sound so stupid saying it, C.D. Deuce, who, hey, man, that's what the guy wants to be called. You over there laughing like peanut gallery? Have you called him C.D. Deuce yet?
I haven't, but it was the fact that you preferenced it with, I'm going to sound stupid saying this, and then said the man's name.
I got to say C.D. Deuce. Come on, man. That's like a graphic description of your bowel movements is what C.D. Deuce is.
Like you said, it's what he wants to be called.
But if he wants to be called a graphic description of a bowel movement, fine. Like you out there eating sunflower seeds, and then you got to go poo-poo, and then you're a C.D. Deuce. Anyway, he's likely going to end up being your nickel guy anyway. But regardless, point is, Saints got guys, not really confident in Keemon Hall making the team. Maybe he can surprise us all, but losing those guys like they have, the lost guys that ultimately we're going to try to make this team as a special teamer. And I will be most interested as they continue moving through camp toward the opener in a couple of weeks to see who ends up on that final roster, earning those last roster spots. That, for me, is the part that I love the most about training camp and preseason games, because I'm a junkie and I like seeing who those guys are going to be, because in a lot of instances, because every roster spot in the NFL matters. The only guy on your roster who may not play on a given Sunday is your backup quarterback. And in a lot of instances, your backup quarterback is your holder. So they do get on the field. Like, everybody who's active plays, even if it's special teams. So for many of these guys, that's the way they make the team. Like, think of a guy like Courtney Roby. You're going to tell me Courtney Roby is years in New Orleans as the 6th receiver, but your return man and a gunner, that roster spot wasn't valuable finding that guy? So who's that guy? That's why I always find it interesting to watch those last roster spots and who they go to. Cesar Ruiz obviously is going to have no problem making this roster. He's the Saints' first-round draft pick. He is going to be a day one starter against Tampa Bay. The only question is, does he play center or guard? Cesar Ruiz met today, Wednesday, with the media, and he was asked that question to start. Like, does he have a preference? Like, do you want to play center or guard, both of which he played at Michigan?
No, I don't have a preference, really. Just really trying to learn all positions, really, throughout the interior. So really just going back and forth between everything and learn as much as I can right now. Don't really have a preference, though.
That is the right answer. he's more experienced at center, which makes me think that's probably where he would like to end up if it works out to where he can make that transition easily. Speaking of the transition, they asked him how that transition has gone from guard to or from center to guard and guard to center.
Yeah, I mean, going through this first couple of weeks of training camp, I mean, everything's been, of course, there's learning curves in there, but everything's been going pretty smooth.
Smooth because he's playing next to a guy who was in his same exact situation a year ago. Cesar Ruiz playing next to Eric McCoy, who was the Saints' highest draft pick a season ago, started day one at center. Now those two are kind of working interchangeably. But all reports from both guys are that the relationship has been pretty good. Earlier this week, Eric McCoy met with the media and talked about how he and Cesar Ruiz, even before camp, were communicating and talking a bunch. They've gotten to know each other really well. And that relationship on field should make the relationship, or off the field, should make the relationship on field even more seamless. But here was Ruiz talking about the relationship that he has with the Saints' second-year interior lineman, Eric McCoy.
I think most people know that I contacted Eric when I was combine training. And, it was good to build that relationship early. And just coincidence that now we're teammates. So the chemistry was previously there. So it's good to have somebody that, gave me advice going into this part of my life with me right now. So definitely good.
And they're just so similar, man. I mean, both guys that are interchangeable guards, center, high draft picks, similar expectations, day one, game one starters on this roster with a Hall of Fame quarterback. You really just want to make sure that you steady that group and create a lot of continuity at a spot where continuity is so important on the offensive line. I'll also say that maybe a part of this conversation is we've had so much with guard, center, guard, however that works. We haven't talked enough about Ryan Ramczyk being your right tackle, because whoever ends up playing right guard, like if McCoy stays at center and Ruiz moves to right guard, he's going to be flanked by a couple of veteran players. And I know it's weird talking about McCoy as a veteran player, but he did start every game his rookie season. And if you have Ruiz at right guard, he's flanked now by two veteran players. The same would be said, obviously, if he were at center and he'd have Pete on his left and McCoy on his right, a couple of other high draft picks. But I guess the point I'm making is I might be a little more apprehensive if you were asking a rookie to start at one of the tackle positions. Because you're playing on the interior, someone in a phone booth, the guys flanking you can compensate for any mistakes that you may make. One more from Cesar Ruiz. Here he was talking about the feedback he's gotten early on from the coaches and the veteran players.
Really just most of the feedback is, use this time to learn and to really just get your feet going. I don't really have a lot of time like other people did in the past. So they tell me look, you gotta pick it up quick, but don't get don't get ahead of yourself, don't get too hard on yourself. Just learn it, but you gotta learn it quick.
It's one of those things where I would love to see a preseason for a guy like that, because every veteran NFL player that you ever talk to will lay it out for you. I mean, they all say the same thing in their own way. You have camp speed, like practice speed. You have you not ratchet up the intensity and speed for regulars for preseason, and then it ratchets up even further for the regular season, and then even more so for the playoffs. It's like camp, preseason, regular season, playoffs, and it just stair steps up the intensity and the speed of the game. And Ruiz isn't going to get that. Like, he's not going to get that gradual stair step. He's going to have to leap. I mean, he's not going to be able to wade into the pool. He's going to have to just dive into the deep end. So we'll see how he does, man. But he's, all accounts, cerebral guy, intelligent guy at Michigan, played a couple of positions, and it helps that you have a Hall of Fame quarterback barking out all the calls and a guy on whatever position he plays who played center a year ago that can help him. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.